Imagine you wake up one morning and the news hits you like a hammer. Revolutionary drug stops human aging. 100% effective. No side effects. The world goes wild. Shares of the pharmaceutical company that developed Eternix soar 3,000% in the first 24 hours. Humanity celebrates what seems like the greatest achievement in our history. But no one is prepared for what comes next. Then the system begins to crumble piece by piece. The first to fall are the financial markets. How do you calculate the value of an investment when your time horizon is infinite? Pension systems, designed for a life expectancy of 80 years, face the mathematical apocalypse. Eternal retirements with finite resources. Eternix's ingenious mechanism of action is deceptively simple. It selectively reprograms our telomeres, those tiny structures that protect the ends of our chromosomes, like the plastic protectors on shoelaces. Normally, telomeres shorten with each cell division, acting like a biological clock that sets the pace of our aging. In just 3 months, nursing homes are emptying as if a fire alarm had sounded. The real estate market suffers an unprecedented collapse. No one wants to sell properties that could accumulate value for centuries. Pharmacies become fortified bunkers. A single vial of Eternix fetches exorbitant prices on the black market. The first symptoms of the psychological crisis appear after 4 months. Psychiatrists identify a new disorder, imminent eternity syndrome. The human brain, evolutionarily programmed for a finite existence, collapses at the prospect of an endless life. Consultations are filled with seemingly healthy people who suffer panic attacks as they contemplate eternity. The first year brings with it an unprecedented wave of divorces. Till death do us part takes on a terrifying meaning when death is no longer a certainty. Couples face a devastating question. Do you really want to spend eternity with the same person? The concept of marriage must be completely redefined. In the workplace, the crisis reaches epic proportions. No one is retiring. Young people find themselves competing for jobs against people with decades of experience who can now work indefinitely. Universities begin to empty out. Why study for years when the jobs are filled by immortals who will never retire? At 3 years, the gap between eternals and temporals divides society more deeply than any racial or economic difference in history. Those with access to Eternix accumulate not only wealth, but also knowledge and power, on a scale never before seen. Social mobility freezes. Historians begin to speak of a new epoch, eternal feudalism. Scientists begin to detect something more disturbing. Human evolution has come to a screeching halt. Natural selection, the engine that has driven us for millions of years, can no longer function in a population that is not renewing itself. Our gene pool is stagnating, and no one knows what the long-term consequences will be. 5 years after the launch of Eternix, the world is unrecognizable. The first eternity-free zones appear in communities that reject immortality on religious or philosophical grounds. Secret societies are formed that celebrate natural aging as an act of rebellion. The pro-death people demonstrate in the streets, arguing that death is the necessary price for the renewal of the species. Meanwhile, in secret laboratories, scientists discover something disturbing. Although Eternix stops physical aging, the human brain continues to accumulate memories. How many memories can a mind store before collapsing? Is there a limit to human consciousness? A decade after the discovery of Eternix, the world's population has reached critical levels that defy all predictions. The Earth groans under the weight of a humanity that does not renew itself. Resources, already scarce, become the object of merciless wars. Governments implement draconian, controlled reproduction laws. Having children becomes a privilege to be earned, subject to a complex point system based on social contributions and available resources. Waiting lists for reproduction extend for decades. Fertility black markets emerge, and illegal pregnancies are punishable by loss of access to Eternix. Space colonization, once a romantic dream, becomes a desperate necessity. The first rockets leave for Mars loaded with forced volunteers, people selected by algorithms to establish extraterrestrial colonies. Most never return. Reports from the Martian colonies tell of subhuman conditions and chilling mortality rates. As ecosystems collapse one after another, scientists confirm the unthinkable. Earth cannot sustain an immortal population. Oceans, overfished to the limit, become liquid deserts. The last rainforests are falling under the axe of necessity. The air becomes increasingly toxic, and oxygen masks become an everyday accessory. 25 years after Eternix, the first sacrifice zones emerge. Entire regions are designated as uninhabitable to preserve resources. Their inhabitants are forced to choose relocation or loss of access to Eternix. The massive migrations that follow change the face of the planet. Entire cities become ghost towns, while others explode beyond capacity. Temporal saturation syndrome becomes the psychological epidemic of the century. Immortal brains, overwhelmed by decades of uninterrupted memories, begin to fail. Voluntary amnesia emerges as a common practice. People pay fortunes to erase decades of memories, seeking mental space to continue to exist. Half a century after the gift of immortality, humanity faces its darkest decision. The population reduction protocol is implemented globally. Every week, in every city of the world, destiny draws are held. A supposedly impartial algorithm selects those who must give up their immortality for the greater good. The weekly draws become a macabre spectacle, broadcast live. Families gather in front of the screens, holding their breath, hoping not to hear their names. Those selected have 24 hours to say goodbye before their Eternix dose is revoked. The ultra-rich build bunkers of eternity, subway fortresses with resources for centuries. Corporations develop cryogenic preservation technology, offering pauses in existence for those who want to skip decades waiting for better times. Memory banks flourish, allowing those selected for termination to preserve their memories for future generations. A black market in false identities emerges in the shadows. The desperate pay fortunes for documentation to help them evade the sweepstakes. Others sell their clean identities to the wealthy, willingly accepting termination in exchange for lifetime support for their families. The first lunar colonies are established, reserved exclusively for the immortal elite. From their glass domes, they observe an increasingly uninhabitable Earth. Meanwhile, in the depths of the research centers, scientists wrestle with a terrifying question. What happens to a mind that has lived too long? The first cases of temporal disconnection appear. Immortals who lose the ability to form new memories, trapped in an eternal, empty present. But it is in this moment of utter darkness that humanity begins to understand a fundamental truth. Aging was not a flaw in our design, it was the key to our existence. Like a symphony that needs both the notes and the silences, life needs the counterpoint of death to have meaning. It was our wisest teacher, the one who gave value to every dawn, the one who made every kiss precious, every laugh meaningful, every tear important. In our arrogance, we believed we could improve on nature's design, not understanding that the end is what gives meaning to the journey. As a work of art needs a frame to be appreciated, life needs its limits to have meaning. Aging is not a disease that needs a cure. It is the process that gives depth to our existence, that drives us to create, to love, to leave a legacy. True immortality, we understand too late, does not lie in the indefinite persistence of our cells. It lies in the ideas we share, in the love we sow, in the lives we touch, in the changes we bring about in the world. In our desperate quest to conquer death, we have built a world where life has lost its flavor. Like an eternal feast that turns insipid, or music that plays so long that it becomes noise, we have transformed the most precious gift in the universe into an endless curse. And so, in the twilight of this age of enforced immortality, a new wisdom emerges. True eternity is found not in the denial of death, but in the acceptance of our finite nature. In the embrace of our mortality, we find, paradoxically, the key to a meaningful existence. Death is not the end of the play. It is the curtain that falls, making every act memorable. It is not the negation of life. It is its necessary culmination, the climax that transforms an existence into a story worth telling. Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe now and watch this.